Please join me in welcoming Mr. Steve Wynn.
You all comfortable? So am I. I'm a happy person today. I'll tell you why. I got an iPhone 6. I am one of the lucky 82 million people that got this within the first 15 minutes. And for those of you who did not, those of us who did, look upon you with compassion. You are clearly part of the huddled masses of misery, but you'll be led out of darkness by the Apple Corporation. I love this phone. I love this phone. It has an app, a new app. When you get this phone, you have to get the app. You download this app free, and for the rest of your life, it downloads all the rest of the apps without your permission. If, by some chance, you do not download every other app from the Apple Corporation, they know where you live and they come to visit you at home, and you get retrained. I was reviewing the speaking list that the convention has this year. Wonderful group these next few days. And I've noticed that every single consultant on the planet Earth has been invited to speak here. The only two people on the speaking roster that are not consultants are me and Adelson. Presumably because we're the only two guys not qualified to be consultants. And these consultants have figured every conceivable way that you can give them money. You'll notice that one of the speeches that I notice is, of course, is a session on the impact of technology on business. And presumably, if you're not digitally sensitized, you will be led by one of these consultants out of darkness into the light. I come from a company that is digitally insensitive, I'm afraid. Because we've come to the conclusion over the years that it isn't really about the equipment, the stuff, even the iPhone 6. Because we believe, where I come from, that only people can make people happy. And we are very dedicated to that principle. Today, I was thinking about what to say. I got invited to have this spot on the program several months ago by Jeff. I was very excited. And I said, well, I got to take this very seriously. This is an important moment. All the gaming people are here, all the purveyors. So I sat down and I spent, it was about 2 months ago, I spent several days writing a speech. And I forgot where I put it. No speech. Now I've been left to my own devices with you. I want to talk about two things. One of them is, you know, we were lucky enough to just get named with a license in Boston. We have, as a company, failed to take advantage or attempt to take advantage of any of the riverboat or Racino deals in the past. And there was a reason for that. And in order to explain the point that I'd like to make, the riverboats, the Racinos, were all businesses that really took advantage of a strategic moment where they could have the opportunity to satisfy the need to play a slot machine or gamble at a blackjack table in a particular part of the United States. And these places were built by very smart guys, and they were basically boxes of slots and tables. And they relied upon a geographic monopoly, a geographic dominance, and an opportunistic moment strategically to take advantage of some pent-up demand for gaming in one state or one region or another. They sprouted quickly. Several companies were created to meet that demand, and they prospered, and they now run into problems. The recession exacerbated that situation. But we didn't, as I said a moment ago, we didn't take advantage of it. Because basically we felt insecure about gaming itself. And I'd like to explain that further. Years ago, when I was a young guy, I started at the Golden Nugget downtown. Fremont Street, a very structured market. Price was everything, you know, the 99-cent breakfast, the free shrimp cocktail, all that sort of thing, and slot machines. The places lined up on Glitter Gulch down there with their bright electric signs. It was great fun. It was a carnival midway of slot machines and free shrimp cocktails. When I got to the Golden Nugget as a young guy, I thought to myself, I'm just one of the gang here. And therefore, I really don't have a way of exceeding the average revenue stream of the gang. That wasn't satisfying to me. And so began a journey that has brought us to today, where we've developed some thoughts on the subject. Regional casinos were very much the mentality of Fremont Street. What we realized then is that gaming revenue was an effect, not a cause. I make this point by pointing out that starting at the Golden Nugget, where we spent $200 million or more, on a street where people spent 50 or 60. We spent that money on rooms and restaurants and attractions and entertainment that had little to do directly with gaming. But they brought people who were interested in experiential moments, who also found time to gamble while they were doing it. This focus on non-gaming resulted in the Golden Nugget, at one point, making more money than all of the casinos on Fremont Street combined. I saw this happen. I was a passenger on that bus with my colleagues, and it made a lasting impression on me, to the point, when we built the Mirage, we spent $620 million in a city that had a $200 million investment average. Even Caesars was $200 million or so. Caesars Palace had created a glass ceiling. They had won $400 million. No one on the Strip had ever gotten past 300 except Caesars Palace. That was the foundation stud. That was the standard of the industry. When we built the Mirage for all that money, we built 3,000 rooms all at once, which had never been done anywhere in the world. But more importantly, we built restaurants and stores that we operated ourselves. We expanded the scope and the luxury of our spa. We started putting things in front of the building that didn't have a cash register attached to them. A volcano that erupted. A fanciful and silly idea that was thought up by our landscape architect, our lighting designer, and our landscape architect, David Hersey and Don Brinkerhoff. Even though Caesars Palace had been the glass ceiling, the Mirage won over $500 million. The first casino in the history of the state of Nevada to win more than $500 million in 1 year. What is interesting about that is that the Mirage had $600 million in non-gaming revenue. At no time did the gaming revenue of Mirage exceed its non-gaming revenue. The new glass ceiling was now $500 million, established by that establishment in 1990. Now comes the Bellagio, 1998. $1.75 billion, an outrageous number, not including the paintings. The art collection was more money on top of that. The glass ceiling was fractured one more time, and the Bellagio won $600 million, a number that everybody thought was impossible to get. It broke the Nevada gaming history record for up until that period in history. And what was interesting is that there was $800 million in non-casino revenue. Once again, Bellagio had less gaming revenue than non-gaming revenue. And then we built the Wynn. A friend of mine told me that even he couldn't make money at the Desert Inn. And I reminded him that development makes the location, not the location makes the development. And in the first year of the Wynn, $700 million, a new glass ceiling, but $900 million in non-casino revenue. Once again, gaming revenue breaks the historical record and is less than the non-gaming revenue. And then Encore opens right into the face of the recession on December 22nd, 2008. Can you think of a worse time to open a casino than a December 22nd, 2008? I had been the benefit of timing several times in the history of Las Vegas. I bumped into the Japanese wave in '89, the prosperity of the '90s, but at Encore, right into the darkest cavern of the recession. Wynn and Encore, the year before last year, went to $858 million. A new record in the history of the state of Nevada for gaming revenue. But the non-gaming revenue, $1.1 billion. Now there's a lesson here. For me, it started at the Golden Nugget and has continued unabated every single decade since then. We've been at it all this time. Nothing's changed, including the iPhone 6 coming along. Nothing's changed. Now, the state of Massachusetts announced that they're going to have a casino in Boston. The Boston metropolitan area is going to have a casino. The first really big city, metroplex, the first big international destination city of sorts to have a gaming. I said to myself and my colleagues, hey, wait a minute. The era of the Grand Hotel has come and gone. There'll be no more Waldorf Astorias or plazas built because the cost of construction and the room rate, thanks to Hotels.com and Expedia, don't match anymore. We've had laws to protect the public from monopolies and cartels, but no one ever thought there'd be a buyer's cartel. It's called the internet. Yeah. But all of a sudden, although the age of the Grand Hotel had passed, and all the hotels built in all the cities today, in Chicago, New York, they're multi-purpose structures. Shopping center on the bottom, then a bunch of floors of offices, then a hotel up on the 42nd floor, then some floors of hotel rooms, and then finally condominiums. Places to stay if you have to be in the city, but by no means destinations unto themselves. Nope, the era of the Grand Hotel had gone away. Except now in Massachusetts, it's this unusual moment, at least in my eyes, the chance to build the Grand Hotel again. No hotel in the United States of America, outside of this city, has hotel rooms that are in excess of 600 or 700 square feet per room. Now, they're old hotels, refurbished, a few new ones built as layers of a layer cake in a condominium tower or a shopping center, an office building. But the rooms are small, and the lobbies are conveniently tucked into the tower somewhere. But for a gracious arrival, for an experiential moment, all of a sudden we had an opportunity presented at Boston that we could build a Grand Hotel again. Imagine the fun of that. A spectacular arrival. Real convenient parking. Hotel rooms, spa, shops, restaurants, as fanciful as those that are in these hotels up and down the strip. But not in the cities. But we could do it in Boston. And then down the hall, like a convention space by itself, totally accessible from the garage, but in no way mixed in with the rest of the hospitality attractions, would be a room of gaming equipment that would justify the return of the Grand Hotel. And we said to ourselves, Boston. All those universities, all those kids from around the world. And then we see Hainan Airlines and Cathay Pacific announce nonstop service from Beijing and Hong Kong. God is on the side of the Jews. I say that with deference to the fact that I'm in Sheldon's hotel. My friend Sheldon Adelson with the entrepreneurial nerve of steel. Remarkable achievement, Adelson. Great, great achievement. A man of extraordinary confidence, fearless guy, swashbuckling entrepreneur. It's fun to come here. He and Mary, his lovely wife, the doctor, and Andrea and I have become good friends. But you can see how my experience in Las Vegas had made it important for us to go to Boston. And the reason I'm going over this is not so much to give you our history, but to make a point to all of us that are here today, part of this industry of ours that meets challenges that are new and unexpected every day, that it's always been that the non-casino story was the story. It was never the slot machines. They've been everywhere for centuries. Nobody gave that much of a damn about them unless they were hooked on a slot machine. And with all deference to Bally and the rest of the companies, you know what I mean. The machines have no power unto themselves. A roulette table is a roulette table anywhere on earth. It's just a table with a thing that wheels around. What's a baccarat table but 4 legs and a green felt and some cards? They're all the same. There's no chance for differentiation. And today in 37 or so states in America, you can get in a car, you don't need an airplane, and within an hour and a half be at a gambling table. From Bangor, Maine to Phoenix, from Miami to Seattle, an hour and a half and you're at a slot machine. And you're as vulnerable as the next guy that has another slot machine a little closer to your customer. And that spells trouble with a capital T. So, it's about something else, huh? It's about things that give people a chance to live big. That's what they come here for. That's what they want. It's what they want in Mississippi. It's what they want in Louisiana, Illinois, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. And if you give it to them, you're going to be okay. And if you forget it, you're just a passenger on a bumpy road of economic cycles. And you're just as good as until the next guy opens up down the street. And I don't like that. I don't like any business where all you got to sell is price. It's a fool's game. You got to give people something they're willing to pay for. You got to give people something they're willing to get on an airplane and submit to a body search for. And that ain't a slot machine, friends. And it sure as hell ain't a baccarat table. Why do all the Chinese guys come here for Golden Week and Chinese New Year when they could go closer to Macau? Because Las Vegas has given them something special. A wonderful menu of entertainment and shopping and dining as good as any city in the world. And as long as we keep our eye on that ball, we're going to be fine. And that leads me, now that I've told you everything I know, if you expected much more, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but on the other hand, I didn't get paid a dime for this speech. So we're even. Look, they say, the Chinese people gamble more than everybody else in the world. No, they don't. Somebody else gambles more than anybody in the world, and I'm going to tell you who they are. The lady that I spent 49 years with in my life, my wife Elaine, and I, our fathers, her dad's name was Sonny Pascal, and my dad's name was Mike Wynn. Both of these guys were born of parents who were first generation, who were first to come to America from the old country. My parents were first generation Americans. Their folks came in the great wave of immigration from Europe between 1880 and 1900. They came to this country impoverished, and they made their way in sweatshops and whatever else they could do through the first decade of the last century. Got enough footing to get married and have children just before World War I. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin were born in 1915. My mother and father were born in 1916. My dad's mother died when he was a baby, an influenza epidemic. His father was a vaudevillian, and he put him in a foster home in Revere, Massachusetts, and paid money every month for my father to be brought up in a foster home, a nice home. My mother was born and lived from the time she was a baby, all her life with her mother. All families were first, from the old country. Neither mother or father graduated high school. Went to work when they were 15 or 16. That generation of Elaine's parents, my parents, they and their children didn't see a good day. They came of age in 1932 and 1933, smack into the Great Depression. Roosevelt convinced them that he was going to help them, and they became Democrats. They hadn't seen a good day. If they didn't go to war and get killed, they survived World War II. They came of age in their 30s in 1945 and 1946 and bumped into the greatest period of expansion economically and opportunity in America in history. And they started to make money for the first time in the history of their families. And they had this pent-up demand for the good life. And the good life in the 50s was a mink stole, a diamond ring, a Cadillac, and maybe a trip to Las Vegas. Go to the Copacabana and see Frank Sinatra or Sammy Davis Jr. That was the good life. And they had heard about it. Their parents had talked about it. They had never got close to it. But all of a sudden, after World War II, they were getting and making their own money on their own wits. There's a funny thing about people that make their own money for the first time. They have an attitude towards money that's different. Hell, I made this money myself, and I'll spend it as I damn please. And these people have a tremendous pent-up demand to live big and enjoy the things they've only heard about and dreamt of all their lives. Things that their parents never knew. And so first-generation wealth has a great tendency towards consumer spending because of this pent-up demand. Does that make sense to you? It's the story of my family, of so many families, the war babies, the baby boomers. And what happens? Look at China through that prism, and you will see there is no old money in China. Everything is 40 years since Deng Xiaoping. Modern China is all new wealth, and they're creating millionaires there but once every 90 seconds, truly. And they want the good life. And casinos and coming to Las Vegas. Got a Rolex store in the Wynn Macau that's 700 or 800 square feet, does $150,000 a day. And in Zhuhai, on the other side of the border, you can get a copy of one of these for 1 penny on a dollar. And it looks exactly the same. But they don't want the Lindy. They want the real thing. They want the Birka bag. They want the Kelly bag. They don't want the copy. That's the aspect of new wealth. When folks break out of poverty and have their moment. And that's the explanation of what's going on in China. It's also the explanation of Brazil and Mexico and Chile. That's what's going on in the world. The emerging nations are breaking out, and people getting in the middle class and above. And they want to travel, and they want to see everything. And the global economy and modern transportation has made it all possible. And more importantly, because of the communications revolution that we've all experienced, everybody knows what's going on everywhere else. And they want in on it. And that's why this town, everybody said, that if they ever have gambling in California, Las Vegas is all finished. Not so fast. Not so fast, Rodriguez. Not so fast. Because the infrastructure, the menu, the choices of this place made it somewhat invulnerable to change. And the only constant in our life today is change, right? So the question is, for those of us who are in the room and going to hear all the consultants, and tomorrow you'll get it from the man himself, Mr. Adelson. The only thing that's for sure is change. And you got to use your brain to figure out what's really happening. If you do that, you're probably safe. Now, I'm 72 years old, and I'm feeling pretty safe these days. And I like to have everybody feel the way I do. So that's pretty much all I got to say. I hope the points I've made make sense. But you know, every time that you try and think of what it is you could say to a large group of people that are your peer group in the industry that we share, most important thing is, can you say something that makes sense that might be helpful? And that's what I've tried to do. I've also said I'd be glad to take questions. I'm afraid only, not that you will ask me a question for which I do not have the answer, but I'm afraid you'll ask me for one that I do have the answer. And I want to mention once again, I didn't get paid a dime for this. But let's go ahead and take questions, okay?
Steve, thank you for your remarks. We have some questions that people provided to us. A lot of good questions, but frankly the most important was whether you got the silver, gold, or space gray iPhone 6.
I got the white one.
Looks like the silver. Yeah, okay.
The silver.
Now people know what to get.
I'm a computer illiterate, but I can answer this phone.
You spoke about how Boston is different than many of the regional markets in the United States. At the same time, we have, with tribal gaming, nearly 1,000 casinos in this country. One of the questions we have is from someone who runs a regional casino, wondering in that environment, how do they keep their team, their frontline supervisors, motivated in this type of environment where gaming is omnipresent?
What a good question. Wow. That's one of those questions I do have the answer to. And I'm not sure I want to share it. Okay. All right. It's tough out there, right? And everybody wants your best people. I know the feeling. You want to keep them. It's the only chance you got. What keeps them? Money? Sort of. Once people feel like they're being paid well, it's something else. Is the job satisfying? The most powerful thing in human nature is self-esteem. If you can figure out a way in any business to equate experience at that job with an enhanced self-esteem, no one will ever leave. That's the biggest deal. Now that's a simple truth, and most things that really matter in this world are simple truths. The question is, how do you equate an experience on the job with enhanced self-esteem? Because if you can, it will be repeated endlessly. You will have an agile, warm and happy workforce that deal with change in a positive way. Two organizations. Memo comes down, we're not going to do it the way we did yesterday anymore. We're going to do it this way. Organization with poor leadership, here's what happens. On the line employees, damn it, every week it's something new. Can't they ever make up their mind what they're going to do? If it's this way this week, it's that way next week. What the hell will it be next week? Same memo comes down to a well-led organization, and the people look at it and say, we're doing things differently. We're getting smarter. We're more sophisticated. Glass half empty, glass half full. It's all about leadership. You could see it in the White House, where it's missing. You could see what happens. I didn't mean that quite the way it sounded. Experience matters. Knowing how to do things matter. Understanding the relationship, the parts to the whole, and how important those parts are, and how they have to be satisfied, is the principal job of the boss man. I call it the Dada gene. You don't get befuddled. You have the kind of relationship with your colleagues and respect for your colleagues that allow you to deal with change as professionals that are trained and prepared to do it. The tougher the time, the more exciting the job. Because up or down, all of us who are in this business, we're being paid to deal with change. Whether it's an Indian casino or anything else, or the White House, nothing stays still for 5 seconds. You have to surround yourself with good people, and you got to trust each other. And you got to be able to listen. And you got to be able to say, I don't know once in a while. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room when I'm dealing with problems in my shop. I am actually the dumbest guy in the room. Especially when it comes to technology. So look, keeping your employees happy, keeping them in the company, it's right smack dab, whoever asked that question, on your nose. Man, gal, whoever asked that question, that's what you're paid for. And it's a family thing. You get that straight, and you'll have the answer to your question. The techniques that you do to do that, are creative exercises. You'll have to develop your own. We've got ours. Next question.
Obviously, yourselves, MGM, Las Vegas Sands, have found great success in Macau. Looking at other Asian markets, Japan, South Korea, what are your hopes, your plans in those markets?
Asia's exciting. Oh, it's exciting. I hope that if gaming expands to Japan, for example, that the legislation and the regulatory structure that is conceived by their people is intelligent and well done and offers prospective developers a chance to invest great capital intelligently. Very often the politicians get so carried away with the money part of it. Let's take Pennsylvania, for example. 70% tax rate. Boxes of slots. How simple is that? What the hell they expect was going to happen? You say you're going to take 70% of the money, the guy's going to build a box of slots and hope that he can squeeze out a margin. Take Mississippi, different story. Nevada, different story. Tax rate that said, we want you to invest big capital, build well-rounded, integrated resorts, and we will have longevity. When I was making my presentation in Boston, which is exactly on point to this, here's a competitive situation, and the legislation, as it will in Japan or wherever the hell else they do it, will say, we want to increase tourism, we want to create jobs, and we want to have tax revenue. A, B, C. Taxes, jobs, tourism. Trouble is, those aren't three equal things, except to a politician. Two of those are an effect. One of them is a cause. Tourism is a cause. Tourism is where you bring people from over there to over here. That's a phrase I used in Boston. You know, I was talking to the commission. It's a very serious moment. Very smart people in Boston. The regulators, the investigators, I must say, some of the brightest people that I bumped into. They got it, even though it's new to them. Bringing people from over there to over here is simple. That means that what's over here is better than what's over there. So what's over here, if it's better, has to be bigger, has to have more stuff. Therefore, it will employ more people. Effect, if you want tourism. It will pay more taxes because unless you bring people from outside the region into the region, you will have what's known as the regional typical profile. Gaming opens up in Illinois, and all of a sudden, a whole new industry is born overnight, and there's a big tax puff. Extra revenue comes in. And then after a year or two, it flattens right out because it's dealing with the same customers, and it's as good as the casino in Elgin, but when there's one over there in Gary, they cut it up. unless you bring people from over there to over here, unless you bring people from outside the region and have a positive influx of capital from abroad, from outside, you can't have permanent growth in a healthy industry. And so I'm hoping that if Japan or South Korea and those other peoples expand the opportunity, they will do so in a way for their own sake that is intelligent and inspired and has learned from the experience of all the rest of the world to do it properly.
Great. Two more questions for you, proving that I didn't filter the questions. Your thoughts on internet gaming?
My thoughts on internet gaming? Not much. I've been sitting in my office for 10 years listening to my pals, guys I really respect, tell me, oh, the internet, the internet, the internet. It's like Mount Everest. Can't see over it. We got to be part of it. We can't be left behind. The old digital razzmatazz. Left behind what? It's illegal in America. No, 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 it's going to be legal. They're going to have poker. Yeah? Well, look at all the money that the guys are making that are gypsying in against the law. Yeah, we can't do that. It's illegal. Yeah, but we got to get into it, Steve. We got to be ready. Oh, yeah? So we got to throw 30 or 40 million at this to get ready. Or we'll be left behind. That's the thing that scares most baloney executives. We'll be left behind. Yeah, right. Where's the business opportunity, huh? Where's the business opportunity? You got all these states miserably hungry for revenue. They all have lotteries. They have attorney generals and congressmen and governors that are connected to Washington at the hip. You think they're going to let the private enterprise get this money? Baloney. Number two, Uncle Sam allows some form of internet gaming, and they could see every transaction in Technicolor every minute of every dime you're making. How long before that is recognized as the single most unsympathetic tax target on the planet? They'll tax your brains out. Now, I don't like internet gambling, and in other words, I share Sheldon Adelson's conviction that some kid will get a hold of his parents' credit card, or some guy will pull some baloney and cause havoc in his community. In every single jurisdiction in America, there are some people who think gambling is immoral and wrong. They're religiously convinced or ethically convinced that it's not a good thing, that you don't have the right to decide for yourself. Now, there are people like that, and their existence is undeniable. I may not agree with them. It's an anti-libertarian idea, but there are people like that. The legislator that votes for legalized internet gaming, he has nothing really to gain from it, but if he votes for it and anything goes wrong in that community, he's going to get blamed for it. That's why there's no support for it in the House of Representatives. Number two, when something goes wrong, sure as hell, some regulator will jump in and decide to throw a whole bunch of new stuff on the backs of all of us, including those of us that have these kinds of buildings and are not in the internet business. Add all of those factors together, and I take a pass on the internet. Just like Adelson.
Last question for you that we received. You've been doing this for a while. You've done pretty well for yourself. What keeps you in it? What do you enjoy at this point?
I was doing it before I came over here. Right up till the last second I got in the car with Andrea. I was working on the nuance of the moment of arrival in Boston. And I was thinking about coming in. We're going to have this atrium that's 60 feet wide, that's round. That's a floral thing that happens with Ferris wheels and things that open that are all flowers. And it's a big, tall room, and behind it, I took the idea of two curved escalators that diverge with a glass elevator in the middle. Because I want all the people in Boston, when they walk through the door, to know they're not in Kansas anymore.
Steve, thank you. Thank you very much.